Today I have a different video for you. I'm going to review a new circular saw. My old one died about 10 months ago and I never bought a new one simply because I had no need for one. Before we get to the saw, let me explain the reason why I bought what's referred to as a cheap product. Of course, I like to have a festival. Who wouldn't? I'm a firm believer that if a tool is used very often, then spending more money to buy a good one is worth it. That's why I bought a professional table saw. When my old one broke, instead of buying again a contractor saw, I bought a better one. I'm an amateur woodworker and this is just an hobby, but the table saw is a tool I use every single day. A circular saw instead is a different story. I probably use it 3 to 4 times a year, and buying an €800 saw is just unjustifiable. Hence today I'm going to show you a €65 saw purchased at a Lidl supermarket. So stick around if you're interested to see what's in the box. The model is the ptss 1200 B1. Within the package you'll find the circular saw with a pre-installed blade of 165mm 24 teeth blade. There are 2 guide rails that can be connected together with a connector, and they also provide the Allen key for the screws. There is also a separate Allen key to remove the blade in case you prefer to change the blade to a different type. There is a chip collector extension or adapter that fits precisely, I'm very lucky, fits precisely on my dust collector. And somewhere, which I've already lost, there is also the manual book. To remove or change the saw blade, first of all, always make sure that the saw is unplugged. Then you activate the safety lock by pushing it forward, and at the same time start pushing the blade in a downwards motion and open the clamping lever. You will hear as you push down that the blade clicks, and there it is, at which point you can release all the buttons and you'll notice that the screw that holds the blade is now visible and fully accessible. With an Allen key you can just simply unscrew it. However, in order for the blade not to turn as the Allen key turns, you'll notice that on the inside there is another lock. You keep that pressed, and while you're keeping that pressed, you can unscrew the blade, and you will feel it by feeling that the blade now, that the button has gone further down under your finger and the blade doesn't move anymore. And this way you can just unscrew the blade. To put the blade back, you just do the opposite. You put the blade in, you put the screw back in, you keep the lock that holds the blade firm, you re-screw in the screw, and you're done. To switch the saw on and off, you just push the safety lock upwards with your thumb. You hold the saw with both hands, and then you press the on and off switch here inside. Once the blade is running, you can let go of the lock, and the blade will remain on until you hold the on and off button. To set the cut-in depth, you undo the screw for the cut-in depth adjustment, this one here, and you set the stop to the desired depth that you want. Let's say I'm looking at 1 centimeter here. Then you tighten the screw again. Now, if you are not using the rail, the guiding rail, you make sure that whatever depth you want, you align it to the A. If instead you're using a rail, you need to align it to the B, because it needs to account for the height of the rail. When you're pressing the blade down, this stop here will hit this side here, and that's how it works. To set the cutting angle, you loosen the adjustment wheels. It's got two, one on the front and one on the back. Tilt the motor to the side cutting angle using this scale here. So let's say we're looking for a 45-degree angle. And then you retighten the adjustment wheels. In the front and in the back. And in the back. To connect the two guiding rails, there is a connector. You just push it, making sure that it's on both sides. I like to have it right in the middle. And then, with the provided Allen key, you just tighten the 4 screws. The rails now are fully connected, and I must say that they really line up pretty well. These two eccentric screws are intended for adjustment to fit the base plate of the saw to the guiding rail. You tighten them to reduce basically the play between the circular saw and the guide, but don't tie them too hard that basically you can no longer. If you tie them too hard, you won't be able to push the saw anymore. Just enough that there is no more play. In this case, they're not tight enough. Now, there is no more play. The screws have a double function. They also work as a safety feature. As you're cutting forward, if something should happen and the blade, the saw, will try to kick back, so going backwards, what happens is that obviously if you have tightened them, you're moving forward, it will not go backwards because the screws will tighten themselves as the saw goes backwards, and basically, as you can see, the entire guide rail is moving backwards, which will probably prevent you getting hurt. This was all the functionality of the saw. It's now time to see the quality of the cuts that it makes. I'm going to make just a straight cut. I have already lowered the blade to just a little more of the thickness of the wood, and I can already tell you that the scale doesn't seem to be that accurate. This is a 15mm plywood, and I had to add at least 2mm to the scale just to make sure that the blade would cut through the entire wood. With the camera close up, you probably see some dust coming out, but let me tell you, that is not even 10% of the dust that would come out if you don't have a dust collection. As far as the quality, I first must say that I'm using a hardwood plywood. This type of plywood is famous for chipping. The cut itself isn't perfect, but we are going back to what I've mentioned earlier. If this saw is to be used very few times, or to cut down larger sheets to a more manageable size, then I would say that the cut is good enough. I did, however, wanted to try one more thing, and that is adding some painter's tape precisely where you want to do the cut. I've seen this trick being done before, but I must say that the quality didn't really improve. So to conclude, would I recommend this saw? Yes and no. For someone like myself, as a complete hobbyist, then yes. But if you need this saw for your work, then perhaps it's better to buy a more expensive model. I hope that this review has helped you to make a decision. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below and I will try to get back to you. For now, thank you for watching and see you next time.